What's up, everybody? We're getting started here a little bit early. We're going to go ahead and start calling in Asmodeus's energy before we get going on this thing. I really do appreciate everybody for being here tonight. It's going to be a good one, of course, and I appreciate everybody for being here. Go ahead and focus on his sigil. And let's go ahead and get it going here, y'all. Love you guys. forth with power. We call you forth now, King Asmodeus, in glory. Come, King Asmodeus, come. Come, King Asmodeus, come. We're going to continue on now with the conjurations, calling him forth so that he will be here with us all tonight. Feel his energy, feel his strength, feel his fucking infernal fucking glory. King Asmodeus is coming tonight. Tonight, y'all, tonight.
Show
All right, everybody, we're getting ready to get started here. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. This is the last song that I want to dedicate to King Asmodeus and to all of you. This is something very special. This is my oldest daughter's first solo. She sang tonight. It's fucking beautiful. It's fucking deep. And dedicated to all of you, dedicated to King Asmodeus here. And I hope you all enjoy it. After this, we're going to get started. So, hell yeah. My beautiful fucking angel. Daddy is so fucking proud of you. So let's get everything off of this so I can plant my ass down on it. Haha. One moment, please, everyone. And again, thanks for being here. Fuck yeah. Definitely appreciate it. Hell yeah. Well, shit, I got some wax on the chair. Whoops. Sorry about that. What's up, everybody? Hey. What's up, y'all? Good to see ya. Thanks for being here. Hope everybody's doing well. Say hi to everybody. Hey, thank you. Yeah, it was really cool, man. Hopefully I didn't distort it all fucked uply, because you never know how it's going to come across on the video and everything. Like, you don't know if it's too loud or not loud enough and blah, 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 all that shit. So, yeah. Give me 1 second here. Gotta set a mood, you know? I like setting that mood, baby. Oops. Not that one. This one. Yeah. What's up, everybody? Hey. You think my carpet's on fire? Okay. So the general theme of this stream is Asmodeus. Tonight, what I'm going to be doing is sharing some of my gnosis with you that I wrote about back in 2019 when I did a major path working with King Asmodeus. Some things that I learned, some things that he shared with me. Maybe you've read it, maybe you've not, but you'll be able to hear it tonight. I started reading it on a stream before and I stopped early, but I'm going to go ahead and read it tonight. So hopefully you'll stick around. Hopefully it's something that you'll want to tap into and something that you'll want to hear. And if not, that's okay too, you know. And we'll talk a little bit after that. There's 5 different books that I've been published in: the Anthology of Sorcery, Volume 3, Book of Spells, the Compendium of Baal, the Compendium of Azazel, the Compendium of Lucifuge Rophicale, and this one, Asmodeus, the Lord of Lust. So we're going to get into that today. I'm also going to open some things that people sent me while I was gone, and I don't even know what they are. So we will find out together, I guess, won't we? But again, hope everybody's doing well out there. Thanks for being here. I hope that everybody has been prosperous. I hope everybody has been embracing your inner darkness. I hope everybody's been making the hard choices. I've been experiencing a little bit of all of it and doing my best to embrace it all and to have the proper perspective where it's needed. You know, no one said this path was going to be easy, and it is not. It is difficult by design. And that's just how it is. It's just how it is. So we're going to get into this here. Oh, here it is. I'm not going to be paying too much attention to the chat, so moderators, please, Joe Sway, counting on you, bro. And yeah, Asmodeus is great for chakra work. You know, he actually is great for doing healing, I have found. You know, he is definitely highly skilled in vampiric sorcery, and with vampiric energy you can do a lot of things. You can do damage, but you can also heal. I have experienced all of the above with him, and we'll probably get into a little bit with this tonight. This is another thing, I haven't looked at this in like 5 years. And just like all of my other writing, I don't even remember writing it. I don't even remember any fucking thing about it, you know? Like, to be honest with you, it's like absolutely channeled. I was totally possessed when I wrote all of this stuff. So it's like, it'll be as new to me really and truly as it is to all of you that have never read it or never heard it before. So this will be interesting, without a doubt. So again, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your continued support. I really do truly appreciate all of you very much. And I do sincerely wish you all the best always. Always. So we'll go ahead and get into it, shall we? Yeah. Said, if you find yourself now reading the words of this text, then I wish to extend to you my most humble appreciation. You are indeed welcome here, and I am so very excited to share with you what I have personally learned from the powerful demonic king known as Asmodeus. My path working with this demon began many years ago, and my continuous interaction with him has unveiled invaluable magical gnosis. I would have to say that when it comes to mastering the mysteries of both energy work and sorcery, that hands down Asmodeus is the demon to commune with. The gnosis obtained from this devil has allowed me to become proficient in many metaphysical and magical systems alike. Through his direction, I not only discovered, but have gone to highly excel in the areas of healing, the manipulation of energies both within and outside of my own being, and the powerful dark art of energetic sexual exchange, just to name a few. He also introduced to me the concepts of manipulating parallel realities, and even pulled me into his dark world of vampirism. I would have to say that above all else, the most important gnosis that I have received from this ancient demonic king was the revelation of awakening the God mouth, or the mouth of God. We'll talk about that too. I've talked about that in the past, but anyway. This discovery has not only revolutionized my own magical practice, but has enhanced every spiritual force and connection within me. Without that particular knowledge, I do not feel that I would be half the magician that I am today. It is with the greatest of delight that I have this opportunity here and now to share this gnosis with you. May it benefit you in all of your endeavors, both now and all of your days to come. My ongoing relationship with Asmodeus has more than proven to me, beyond the shadow of all doubt, that the true faces and darkest forms of black magic are indeed alive and thriving within our world. There are many varieties of dark sorcery and witchcraft as there are flavors of ice cream. Each of these modalities are employing their own unique energy in our everyday life situations and ultimately have the ability to manipulate our collective reality. The spiritual worlds that overlap our own physical existence are continuously at play around us, working hand in hand with those who are bold enough to direct them within the confines of this worldly plane. True power can be harnessed by those whom are dedicated to their own personal growth through the attainment of knowledge and one's own subjective life experience. When we combine these things with the spiritual path of the mage, the once ordinary human being shall without doubt transform into something far greater. This transformation can manifest in many ways and take on many forms and archetypes. Of the many possible flavors and combinations, Asmodeus was insistent upon bestowing unto me not only the ways, but also the means of the employment of vampiric sorcery. Asmodeus's teachings have indeed led to many profound manifestations in my own personal life. However, that is not to say that anything was freely given nor received, not by myself nor this infernal fiend of which I speak of. Just as it should be, each transaction was just that, an exchange, as no one should ever expect they should receive something for nothing. Asmodeus impressed upon me sternly that there is nothing in this life that is absolutely free. Everything, and I mean everything, has a price or string attached to it somewhere in the physical realm. For it is not merely the universe, but the multiverse that will decide the ultimate terms of the exchange. We should never expect these transactions to be either fair or equal, as these are mere human concepts. It is there within the dark matter of the multiverse that walk our ultimate spiritual path. For each day that we venture farther past the veil and into oblivion, we are reminded of the importance of both insight and intuition, and that even the most undesirable outcomes can contain hidden gems that can propel us forward towards victory. Each day that we live and every exchange that we make, in these, the brief moments of our lives, are indeed a priceless gift. Whew, yeah. This is why the foundational aspect of learning how to not only truly give, but also how to truly receive in this life is paramount. Success in this life lay in the controlling of energies, both positive and negative, through direct acts of both opposition and cooperation. The keys to power are not obtained at some final destination, but rather they are earned, one by one, along the perilous journey of self-exploration. Asmodeus was hugely responsible for allowing me to see the solidity of this reality, helping me to realize that our reality is much like clay, that indeed it was moldable. Once this information was safely held captive within the mushy confines of the sponge that lay within the rigidity of my skull, it finally began to all make perfect logical sense. The only thing necessary to execute upon this realization of a malleable reality was an artisan, a sculptor, one that is both consciously aware and eagerly willing to create. The mighty adept of these dark arts understands all too well that this world is largely made up of energy, and it is they who are capable of directing these energies that will have the overwhelming advantage in this grand chess game that we all know as life. Asmodeus, one taken under the darkness of his wing, or once taken under the darkness of his wing, will he then reveal unto you a truly unique system of vampiric black magic of the likes that will and shall only be known to you and you alone. It is my sincere hope that you benefit from this information and that it assists you in discovering your own personal vampiric black magic power, for I firmly believe that if you do so, that the keys of dominating this world, this reality, this physical plane of dimensional existence become more than just possible. It is through an unyielding exploration of self that true masters of the multiverse are made, for it is through the ebb and flow of all that is, both in light and in darkness, those energies of which are penetrative and those of which are the more receptive nature, that which we allow to lead us and that which we deliberately direct. It all becomes subject to the limitless nature of our blackest magic. Through my years of experience with this devil, I have come to understand one thing very clearly, that Asmodeus is not your average demon. There is no doubt that he, or should I say they, are much, much more. Asmodeus is a powerful vampiric entity, a demonic king of the highest order, but we are not done there. Asmodeus is also an emanation of the dark goddess, of which manifests ravenously in all of her lustful glory and vengeance, of the likes that can easily decimate any foe. One can also find her on the sweeter side of chaos as the Dark Mother. It is within the loving confines of her warm embrace the sorcerer can find both solace and understanding. The true faces of Asmodeus, they are many. The true nature of the ultimate will and desire of Asmodeus, they too are many. This demon instilled within me a deeper understanding of darkness and the ultimate wisdom that can be obtained whilst in the deathly grips of the dark night of the soul. On many occasions, Asmodeus chewed me up and like a gnarly beast spat me out upon the frozen landscapes of my own internal wasteland. This foul creature, this evil spawn of hell, imparted unto me that the wise sorcerer should realize that there is much more to gain by conquering your own weakness found within, rather than arbitrarily conquering those that may appear to be weaker than ourselves. May be not what one would expect, given his credentials as a demon of the foulest pits of hell, although it was clear that the spirit did not promote unwarranted acts of aggression. Asmodeus nonetheless made it very clear to me that it was important for the magician to also understand that there will absolutely be situations in life whereas the full extent of one's own infernal fury must be fully and explosively exercised. As the sorcerer finds comfort within the truths of their own shadow self, so does this creature of the night side find comfort within the motherly embrace of the moon's nocturnal light. Embrace the night, embrace the darkness, embrace your darkness. It is now that I invite you to explore that which is but a few of the many sides of this demonic vampire, Asmodeus, and that which is but a few of the many sides of the emerging vampiric sorcerer that is inside of you. The majority of us that are active practitioners of the dark arts are most likely not always this way. Regarding myself, I was raised within the confines of this physical programming paradigm known as Christianity, and then moving on to the Roman Catholic Church later in my early adult years. While I was extremely interested in the paranormal as a child, I had never been exposed to magic, witchcraft, or many things that are more traditionally associated with the occult within the mainstream of our society. While I had always been highly attracted to the things that go bump in the night, still I found that I was utterly terrified of that which resides secretly within the cover of darkness. For a majority of my life, it was that fear that invokes the most immense degrees of anxiety and trepidation within the very core of my being, that spawned an overwhelming urge of exploration that I still have yet to fully understand. The human condition tends to direct most of us away from the things in life that prevents themselves to be potentially harmful. However, in my case, it was the same fear that fueled my desire to obtain an understanding. I have always been extremely empathic and intuitive, and on several occasions growing up, I have witnessed what I know to be ghosts, or more specific terms, the apparition of a deceased human being. The odd thing regarding both of these incidents is that neither of these spiritual manifestations were mist-like or translucent. Rather, they were completely solid, just as you or I. What is even stranger to me still is the fact that on both occasions I was in the company of one other person, and in each instance my companion failed to perceive the same reality in an entirely objective situation. It was instances such as these, whereas two people could be in the same geographical location, within a proximity of only a few feet in both cases, but still experience two entirely different things. I have had two people tell me that they have had actually seen me manifest in solid form, similar to that of a doppelganger, on several occasions. From the details that each person has shared with me, it was very much like what I had experienced when I encountered ghosts as a child. They stated that I was just there all of a sudden, and moments later just disappeared. Sure, there is the keen possibility that psychic traits or abilities such as mediumship or clairvoyance could play a role in this type of phenomena. However, being as I personally possess both of these qualities, I feel confident in saying these manifestations are something outside of those parameters. It is certainly possible as well that the beings that I merely assumed to be spiritual in nature, although solid as they were, may not have been purely spiritual at all. Quite possibly these beings were in fact very much like you or I, flesh and blood, alive and breathing, occupying the very same space that I at that precise moment in time. Even though those two odd occurrences were most definitely eye-opening and equally disturbing, both pale into comparison to what happens to be one of the nearly 10 near-death experiences that I have lived through in my 40 years upon this earth. That event took place years ago when I was on the way home from my daily commute. I was exiting off the ramp of the interstate onto a 6-lane highway known as Route 10 to the local residents. As I merged into traffic, I found myself behind a Volkswagen Jetta that seemed to just be as eager to reach their final destination as I on that particular evening. As we sped along the highway, I could see a four-way intersection roughly 1,000 feet ahead off in the horizon. The light sequence began to change as we grew closer, and the Volkswagen in front of me increased their speed. Their actions signaled to me that they were indeed committing to moving on through the intersection despite the yellow caution light that shone brightly ahead. Now, only a mere 50 feet away from the intersection, we entered into that point of no return, and both the Volkswagen and I were moving forward, full speed ahead. At that very last moment, the Volkswagen slams on their brakes, squealing their tires along the pavement. It was obvious that they had reconsidered what would have surely been a blatant running of the soon-to-be red traffic signal. At that moment, I realized that I was moving at such a high rate of speed and in such close proximity to the heavily braking vehicle in front of me that I would have no choice but to attempt to quickly change lanes. As I explosively jerk the wheel to the left, everything goes into slow motion. In the haziness of that moment that followed, I experienced the most dread and apprehension that I have ever experienced. The car had turned 45 degrees to the left, and it was literally flying sideways towards 2 rows of idle automobiles awaiting the left turn signal in the 2 turning lanes. I knew in that split second that I was about to be involved in the worst accident of my life, and that I was not only potentially going to be personally injured by the ensuing impact, but that I was sure to severely injure those that occupied the other vehicles. At that moment of impact, which would involve multiple other vehicles, all of my worst fears and my most hideous of waking nightmares came to life inside of my rattled brain. I closed my eyes and began to feel the inevitable smashing and twisting of both glass and metal. With the strength of an industrial vice, I clenched down upon my jaw, and the white-knuckled grip that my hands imposed upon the steering wheel could not have been pried loose by even the most determined pursuer. The car suddenly swings hard to the right, and my entire body is jolted in my seat. In that very same instant, the car slammed down onto the pavement as if it dropped into place by a crane from above. In that impossible moment of unsurmountable tension, the vehicle came to rest. I wildly thrashed around in my seat, attempting to set my gaze in each and every possible direction. I was beyond desperate for any sort of visual that would assist me in evaluating the severity of disastrous collisions that had just taken place. All of this was due to my selfishness and recklessness, every bit of it. How could I now live with myself? How? Reeling from the shock in a complete daze, I slowly looked over to my right, peering through the passenger side window. My bloodshot eyes then met with the driver of the car, positioned alongside me, not 6 inches from my passenger door. I suddenly tilt my head to the left to come face to face with the other potential accident victims. But before I can even lock my gaze into place, the line of cars began to pull away with the changing traffic light. Immediately, I panned over once again to the right to see a line of cars in motion, just as if everything at that moment was business as usual. I couldn't believe what was happening. All of that I had been through in those brief moments leading up to this, but somehow, some way, it was as if none of it had ever happened. I sat there realizing that my vehicle had come to rest not in a lane, but rather in between 2 turning lanes, which placed me directly in between 2 other vehicles. There was less than 6 inches on either side of my car betwixt the others, and the vehicles to either side of me pulled away. I could see that there were no damages to any of them, and their occupants seemed to not have any clue that any type of accident or incident had ever occurred. I patted my chest and rubbed my arms, feeling around for any potential injury, but found none. I exited my car and did several laps around the exterior, desperately searching for any signs of damages or clues that would help me to make sense of this mind-blowing experience. I looked all around the vicinity of the intersection and found that the Volkswagen had been in front of me prior to the incident was nowhere to be seen. Both my vehicle and I were somehow untouched, but my mind was screaming in my head, how is this possible? I experienced the impact and felt every smash and shudder of the multiple crashes. Not one single detail of the situation made any logical sense to me. It was as if my car just passed straight through the solidity of the others, and if it did not physically exist in that reality for that split second during impact, not only that, but the car also righted itself and then abruptly came to a full standstill, squeezing itself in between the other idling vehicles, with only inches from touching the side exteriors of both of them. Again, I racked my brain in utter disbelief, and for a moment, I began to grow angry at the fact that there were no damages from the collision, as if I were angry at the fact that there was no accident. How could I actually be upset that I had not just jeopardized both my life and that of the others? How could I actually be mad at the fact that there was indeed no accident whatsoever? In my madness, I just couldn't comprehend the entirety of the situation. My own psyche was working overtime, looking for anything in which to latch onto and thus justify what had taken place. To see that there was no damage, no wreck, was like taking away any semblance of comfort or peace of mind regarding my own sanity from myself. I felt robbed of my own reality, even in the midst of the full manifestation of what could be looked as some sort of miracle. Focusing on my breathing was all I could manage to do for a few good minutes, there just outside of my car. At some point, I decided to get back into the driver's seat, and from that point, continued onward towards home. I didn't sleep very well that night, and it was to be expected. I couldn't get the bizarre event out of my mind. I just couldn't grasp it. It was like all of my entire life's events were playing out on a ribbon of film, and a small segment which contained the frames of actionized reality were in a mere split second altered from their original format and immediately mended. This allowed me to avoid the certain catastrophe that would have gone part and parcel with the actual physicality of the collisions, protected completely by these newly replaced portions of reality instantaneously. Once again, I had witnessed an altered reality from those around me in a major way. For many years now, the variables of potentiality of what exactly I was in the conscious presence of in those instances have consistently injected themselves into my daily thoughts. What exactly was going on, and why was I having these experiences? To what benefit or to what detriment could these instances introduce over the course of my lifetime? There must be something more to it all, but what? These were the main questions that I would ask myself constantly in my mind over and over each and every day, but for the longest time it was to no avail. It wasn't until I came into contact with the demonic king Asmodeus that things finally began to make sense. We shall pick up with this, however, in the later chapters of this text. For now, allow me to flash back a little ways to where the things all truly began with Asmodeus. In the beginning. A year or so later, following the near fatal car incident that I had somehow averted, I converted fully to Catholicism. Although my reasoning for doing this was more than so an attempt at creating a culture and unity within my household, I had nonetheless fully committed my heart to the religion, spiritually speaking. I had been attending Mass off and on for roughly 10 years leading up to my ultimate decision to convert, and although I had witnessed many unexplained and what most would consider paranormal incidents throughout my life, both the frequency and intensity of such experiences escalated greatly post-conversion. Looking back on it now, it's more than obvious to me that embracing the ritualized spiritual practice of Catholicism had opened a gateway to spiritual forces that were all too eager to interact in this physical plane. 6 months after my baptism, I began to have many strange experiences, not just at home, but in my place of business and various other locations that I would frequent. I started to develop a sort of paranoid anxiety, as if I was always being watched. I also began to take notice to the rapid and extreme shifts that would take place in the overall energetic dynamic of both myself and my surroundings in my day-to-day life. I was hearing bumps, studs, scratches, and bangs in my bedroom nearly every single night. And my once regular restful slumbers became few and far between. Sleep and I soon became like perfect strangers. I could feel a sharp decline not only in my physical health, but also a veritable upheaval of emotional stress and turmoil that would soon begin to severely threaten my sanity. I did what any God-fearing Catholic would do, and I began to hint around to the deacon before the Mass that I had been going through some difficulties. After communion one Sunday, the man of which sponsored me during my conversion process pulled me aside out of the commons area of the church building. He had spoken to the deacon regarding my situation and just wanted to check in on me. I do not feel that the deacon had taken me seriously, however. This gentleman seemed to hint to me in a roundabout way that he understood me, not from a place of sympathy and efforts to provide comfort to me, but perhaps from his own personal experience. The conversation was so strange, as it was as if I were in a dream state, with that light-headed haziness, and I recall watching the gentleman's lips move, but somehow not hearing a majority of the words that he had spoken to me. The only details of the conversation that I could recall once we had parted ways with it was that there was a demon that went by the name of Asmodeus, and that at one point in time he was relevant within the Catholic Church canon of Scripture. I could really feel that it was
that he was attempting to convey to me, even more so than the words he spoke. Although I could not recall ever running across or hearing the name of Asmodeus prior to that moment, somehow it was eerily familiar. Later that same night, I was laying upon my back on a sofa in my bedroom, resting in complete comfort. I had been sleeping peacefully for the majority of the night, but then in the wee hours of the morning, my eyes suddenly opened wide and I was instantly awoken, or so it seemed. I attempted to sit upright as I could feel that something was certainly off here, but it was as if I was completely paralyzed. I tried to speak, to scream, but even those basic functions were not in my control. I struggled with everything in me to move and focus the fullness of my attention upon trying to turn my head so that I might see my surroundings a bit better. My head was laying on its side, thus, when I had awoken, I was staring straight at the wall. The earthen tone of the wall covering surface provided no sense of security nor comfort as I continued to quake within the confines of my fleshly prison, trying so desperately to regain the use of both my voice and my limbs. It was then that I felt this immense heaviness upon me, and though I was still paralyzed, I could still feel the intense pressure pressing down upon me. The heaviness at first felt somewhat similar to a weighted blanket, but this soon changed as I could begin to become aware of a more defined feature of this mysterious palatable presence which was laying upon me. I became immediately aware of a pair of extremely domineering hands gripping and pressing down upon my upper arms, squeezing with such a ferocity, of the likes of which I had never known prior to that moment. At the very same time, I could feel what I perceived as two large bony kneecaps pushing down into my thighs, as if some sort of physical being was straddling me and deliberately attempting to subdue me in some completely. I became overtly aware that whatever this was had one intention and one intention only, which was to demand my complete and utter surrender to it. As the experience continued to unfold, I became aware of the other features that my attacker possessed. They were not things I could feel per se, as this information was being processed within my mind's eye, still all too real nonetheless. I got a sense that there was an extremely large and immensely powerful beast-like creature that was upon me. I could piece together through the perception of my third eye a huge muscular-like frame, broad and covered in an animal-like fur. The closest example that I could offer would best describe the aforementioned creature would be that of the mythical werewolf. It was not the aspect of the werewolf's face, as that was not revealed to me, but the features of the makeup of the physicality of its body, which was fairly spot on to my concept of which I would associate with that sort of creature. What happened next was equally as disturbing and chills me to the very bone every time I recount the events of that unforgettable night. The beast, still bearing down upon me with the weight and strength of many men, spoke to me in my mind. It was a telepathic communication, but still I heard it loud and clear in an audible manner, and within the confines of my mind. The powerful voice was deep, and it boomed and vibrated within the walls of my skull, almost as if it were literally rattling my brain. "What are you gonna do now?" the beast bellowed. This communication instantly changed the overall dynamic of the situation, as I got a sense that it was not to destroy me, but rather to provoke or challenge me in some manner. Just as soon as the creature had spoken to me, the weight lifted and the presence was gone. Slowly but surely, my motor skills were restored and my limbs were once again fully animated. I felt a sort of haze over me, and even though I had just gone through one of the most terrifying experiences of my life, I was strangely calm. I am still shocked now at how nonchalant that I was in the moments following my apparent attack. I just sat there for a moment, scratched an itch upon my face and yawned. Slowly I laid back, pulled up the covers onto my chest. I checked my phone to make sure that my alarm was set for the next day, and took one last look into the darkened room that surrounded me. I yawned again and stretched my fingers towards the ceiling before settling back into a snuggly position. I began to melt into the cushions beneath me, and my breathing became both shallow and rhythmic. I was heading off to sleep once more. The last thing that went through my mind as I slipped off into dreamland was, "What are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? What the fuck are you gonna do now, JD? A few nights passed since the incident, and I now found myself unable to sleep. I needed to do something. I needed to get help, but where and how? I had been seeing this image in my head of what I could only describe as what most people would describe as a being of a demon. Somehow I just knew that it was. This realization began to plague my thoughts. I would lay awake at night thinking over and over if I could, in fact, actually be dealing with a demon here. I was scared, and I felt very much alone. Sleeping seemed to be my only means of escape, and now my own racing thoughts were keeping me from my one saving grace. Tossing and turning eventually led me into the living room to recline on the soft crispness of the sofa cushions. Sometimes when you can't sleep at all, it's needed a change of scenery. The living room sofa was always a good and suitable backup plan on those nights where the bed just wouldn't do. As I lay back upon my back, pillows behind my neck, I deeply exhaled and gazed down the long corridor and led away from the living room and towards the bedchamber of the home. Just as I began to close my eyes, it happens. The energy in the room shifted and the air became thick. The walls seemed to breathe and the ceiling appeared to compress inward. In what seemed to be like slow motion sequence, straight from a Hollywood movie, I witnessed three humongous golden orange orbs floating towards me, coming from the bedchamber areas at the end of the corridor. The three manifestations silently flowed down the hallway in a perfectly spaced single file line, one after the other. These orbs were so large in their stature that they filled the walking area width of the corridor itself, each measuring nearly 3 feet in diameter. I rubbed my eyes and blinked several times, doing my best to snap out of the dream that I believed I must be under the influence of. Shaking my head wildly, I then realized that I was in fact not dreaming, but wide awake and completely aware. The orbs then had the appearance of a huge translucent rendition of one would expect to see when examining simple cell organisms under a microscope. Although I was supremely shocked at what it was that I was witnessing and quite apprehensive, still I managed to marvel at the fluidity of the movement that these floating balls of translucent light expressed. Their movements through the interior environment of my home were executed with such a precision as if I had not already established visual confirmation of these beings. They could have gone entirely undetected. As they moved closer, I could see the most brilliant shimmering shards of luminescent filaments within the orbs themselves. These filaments appeared to be moving in a controlled chaos inside of the orbs, then moving outward and manifesting as a distinct aura. The color was like that of the orb itself, a solid gold color, and gradually fading out into an orangey sunburst. As the orbs entered the living room, I could see that their forms were morphing. The orb that was leading the pack now appeared to be a large, furry animal's head, almost raccoon-like, and it had a dark brown hood pulled over its head. It may seem odd to witness a large floating raccoon head with a hood, but as silly as it may sound, I can assure you it was terrifying. As soon as I was able to comprehend what I was seeing, I closed my eyes tightly. I was literally scared to death. All I could do was try to breathe and just try to hold on tight. These three orbs, continuing to move quickly, soared past me as I lay there on the sofa. As this happens, my entire being goes into a full-body orgasmic spasm. It was as if I was being electrocuted with the most delicious ecstasy throughout the entirety of my being. There was nothing painful about the experience whatsoever, as on the contrary, it was insanely pleasurable. I had an inherent notion that the same dormant force, much like a seed of sorts, laying and waiting deep inside of myself, was at that very moment being activated. What this was at that time, I did not know for sure, but there was no doubt that this was a moment I would not soon forget. I managed to open my eyes just in time to see them silently disappear through the exterior wall of the living room, and it was then that I felt a warm buzzing sensation on the lower back side of my head. This was yet another part of this experience that would prove to be of great importance. Though I was unaware at that moment, its truths would be revealed in due time. The aftermath of this event left me feeling both drained and disconnected, feeling almost as if I were in an altered state. My fuzzy brain and blurry eyes briefly scanned the perimeter of the room in an attempt to identify anything else that could possibly seem odd or out of place. My suspicions satisfied, I submitted fully to the seduction of relaxation and slowly drifted off to sleep. The next day, from the very moment I had awoken, I felt remarkably different. I still felt rather fuzzy, and overall my energy was low. I had been dealing with depression for a few years at that point, and I could feel the heavy weight of this emptiness within me, decidedly taking residence deep inside of both my body and my mind. For the next 2 days, I isolated myself in the dark recesses of my basement. This area would eventually become one of the most splendid magical temple spaces one had ever seen, but for now it was likened to that of a tomb or a dungeon, for magic had not yet been initiated nor executed within the confines of those cold block walls. For those few days, I sat there in silence of my underground refuge. For a majority of that time, my head was afflicted with a great pressure, so much so that I couldn't help but compare the sensation to the imagery invoked within the thinking of a pressure cooker on high heat. I sat there upon the concrete floor of the basement with a brown-colored throw blanket draped over both my head and my shoulders. The aching pressure and pain in my head finally began to subside at some point, and then I became keenly aware that I was feeling the same warm buzzing sensation that I had felt a few nights ago with the orbs on the lower back side of my head. This area had no real significance to me at that time, however. I would soon discover the massive energetic and spiritual significance that the Zeal chakra, or mouth of God as it is known by, truly was. The area located on the backside of my head, my mouth of God, continued to buzz and tingle. It was then that I began to feel as if it was churning in a counterclockwise direction, so much so that I began to get lost in its rhythmic motion. I could feel this area of my energetic body opening up as it continued to churn, as if it were a vortex of sorts beginning to take shape. Just as one can pull energy into their solar plexus via tentacles and regarding practices of psychic vampirism, so did this spiritual opening within me. My mouth of God pulled in and absorbed every ounce of darkness in that dank basement, and like an ancient medicine, it manifested as an ever-increasing influx of energy that continued to increase within me. The darkness nourished me, body, mind, and soul. My mouth of God continued to pull in and consume all that remained in that complete and utter absence of light. As I fed, I could feel myself growing stronger. Electricity seemed to flow throughout my veins, and a static emanated from within all around me. If I felt anything, I felt alive, as for the very first time I felt nearly complete in both the soundness of my mind and that of my body, although I couldn't tell that I could tell that I was not the same man that I used to be. Something was very wrong, or maybe, just maybe, it was very, very right. It was then that he came forth, in the fullness of his spirit, like an energetic suit of armor, his essence enveloped me. This was an extreme level of possession that, to this very day, I have not ever again experienced. For nearly 90 days, I was under the influence of this spirit, and for a majority of this time, I was totally unaware that it was the demon Asmodeus. Although he had taken full possession of me, he did not make his identity known unto me until the later part of the 90-day period. For portions of those 3 months, I would sit and scribble down countless sigils, letters, and words derived from the abstract images and echoing of the barbarous tongue that repeated in my mind. I quickly filled page after page, still unsure what it was that I was documenting. As the days went on, I felt the energetic presence around me grow stronger and stronger. Sexual energy began to increase within me exponentially, and while this was welcomed with open arms, such a positive and useful manifestation was accompanied by an all too effective equalizer that came in the form of explosive bouts of uncontrollable rage. I had never been one to get upset in the past, to anger easily, or to even go as far as raising my voice. Things just didn't bother me. I was always neutral, indifferent, and in some instances a pushover. I couldn't get upset or angry even in the situations where I knew that I needed to do so. For years I had gotten so upset with myself for not being able to raise that primal force within me. I can say with certainty that I now had no issue in raising that Mars like energy, that rage within myself. The problem now, however, was trying to regulate my emotions as they were on a roller coaster ride from hell, and my anger and rage was sending me off the rails. Several times a week, I was having outbursts. I was losing all control of myself. I recall one instance where I had punched a hole straight through a closet door. In that moment of no return, that moment inside of one's rage when they know they want so badly to unload and unleash the fury of hell, but that small part of them, that still small voice of reason, desperately tries to stop them. Rarely does that voice of reason prevail, and the floodgates of rage become free-flowing. At that moment, my first came into contact with the wood grain of the panel of that door, I went into a state of tunnel vision. All I could see was red. As this was occurring, multiple layers of myself, like many paper-thin clones of my likeness and energetic makeup, began to explode from within me, moving in sync with the blow of my fist as it penetrated into its target. It felt as if I were stepping outside of my soul, and that I had intertwined with this spiritual presence that had for weeks now completely consumed me. I knew right away that I needed to get a handle on my newfound influx of energy, and that I needed to be directing it in the proper places within my life, and that I had to transmute that energy into that which would work for me and not against me. Meanwhile, my sexual energy was still off the chart. I had generated so much energy that my kundalini was raised on multiple occasions. That coiled serpent's energy was indeed coming alive within me, or was it that I was now coming to life within it? At this point, I could no longer differentiate where I ended and where the spirit enveloping me began. Things were quickly moving towards reaching a critical mass, and my sexual energy was so intense that it was literally flowing from within my being. I could feel static electrical charges and impulses of sexual energy, like an undirected chaos exuding from me in all directions. I began to develop an insatiable hunger to express that overabundance of sexual intensity that was brimming from within me. Like an unstable volcano, I was overdue to erupt. To my bewilderment, no manner of external sexual stimulation of any type whatsoever could satisfy nor curb the immense desire and primal hunger inside of me. I feared that I was becoming an animal, operating solely on those instincts in each and every situation I encountered. I found that communicating with those whom I loved most of all, which I had pushed away at this time, was nearly impossible. I would feel paranoid and in most situations cornered. As a result, I would respond as an animal would in the wild and act out in every unpredictable and sporadic way. I was pushing everyone in my life away. I was pushing myself away. Time began to pass in a mysteriously subtle way, and my sense of night and day began to unravel. I was beginning to deteriorate, despite the immense influx of energy surging within me. This is when Asmodeus began to speak to me, telepathically in my mind. I knew instantly that this was the very same entity that had been atop me the night 5 to 6 weeks prior. The energy and overall demeanor of the spirit was one and the same, without any doubt. That I was certain. His interaction with me mostly consisted of a strong empathic connection in which he used to implement his direction. I could just feel what to do, how to carry myself, and what to say. Once I had fully integrated Asmodeus into my spiritual being, and at which point he was fully seated and riding upon me, I began to pull myself together and function in my daily life in more desirable ways. I was still having angry outbursts, along with displays of hatred and rage. However, they were becoming rather infrequent, and typically over long before the point of no return was reached. I was regaining control of myself and felt safe to attempt to exist in the world again. I had isolated myself in the basement of my home a majority of the time for the first 6 to 8 weeks of this path working. This full and utter possession of this demonic king, Asmodeus, was raging inside of me, and his overwhelming intense sexual prowess fueled the actions and executions of our shared intention to both stimulate and feed. I was now ready to go back out into the land of the living, as I had overwhelming desire and ravenous hunger that demanded to be satisfied. I would like to take a moment to stress here that I do not recommend the I don't know what this word is. Oh, the implementation of these energetic exchanges with strangers or those unaware or unwilling. I am not condoning my actions being described here, nor am I apologizing either. I am merely recounting events as they occurred, be as it may. This practice, like anything else worthwhile in this world, brings forth power, thus can be abused. I urge all whom intend on this exploration and execution of such practices to do so without doing any harm, nor trespassing against any others. As with all things, it is your choice, and your choice alone. Do tread lightly. This is how the experience would initiate itself, and I would in turn then learn to control and harness the energy transferred. This was done through the direction of Asmodeus, through a subconscious, almost inherent instinctual prompting, and a direct empathic link to him and the utilization of my mouth of God. Here is a brief description of how these events would typically transpire. I would leave my home and head out into the shopping mall and just set up on the that was just set up by the interstate, roughly 10 to 12 miles away. I typically hated malls and had not been inside of one for had been probably 5 years or more. Yet for whatsoever reason, my urge to go there was piloting my ship. I had to get around people, around women, and as many as possible. Once I arrived at the mall, I began to casually stroll around and window shop, moving from one store to the next. I would encounter an attractive woman, and I would then begin an energetic exchange of sexual energy that, when transmuted through the mouth of God, results in the expression of a higher vibrational frequency within this conscious reality. This would be done from afar and unbeknownst to the women of which I would choose to energetically interact with. While they would have no idea what was exactly happening, their reactions and body language hinted towards the fact that they could feel it. This type of energetic exchange is highly arousing, extremely stimulating, and insatiably enjoyable. Other physical manifestations of this exchange include high levels of euphoria, feelings of increased vitality, and an overall deeper sense of empathetic connections to others. I would soon become addicted to this energy exchange. I felt so powerful and I felt so alive, and found that my desires were no longer taking me over, as they now had become a direction and a purpose. Still, however, though I say, I was totally obsessed to this energy exchange, or feeding as it could be considered. I had a hunch and found that I could achieve the very same results via the use of the internet. With that notion that it could work one night, I decided to try my theory out. I found myself logging into a camgirl website and then entered into a free chat room. I would initiate the energetic exchange in the same manner in which I would if I was physically in the room with the person. And I had found that it works just the same. There is no real separation between either time or space. There are no limits to what we can achieve, just as there are no limits in regard to the potential of our magic. The main components of this energetic exchange involve the ability to generate sexual energy within oneself, and then intertwine it with a subtle match of whom you find sexually pleasing. I found that for me, there has to be a sexual attraction there, as the exchange and subsequent feeding just doesn't feel appropriate or even possible without it. Activating the mouth of God is required prior to the implementation of the following exchange technique. Both the sigil and instructions for activation can be found later in the chapters of this text. Once that has been accomplished, then this is how you would initiate the energetic exchange. You activate the mouth of God, rotating it into a frenzy in a counter-like counterclockwise direction and fill it with spiritual fire. A strong visualization combined with your sexual energy and the intent will be sufficient to achieve this. Feel your mouth of God tingling, suckling inward even into itself like a magnet. Allow it to become a generator. Pull it in and direct the energy. Driven and directed by lust and desire alone, identify your partner and energetically lock onto them. Relax your gaze and your overall posture, as there is no need or benefit in pushing your energy too aggressively. That only results in frustration. Begin to feel your sexual energy leaving you like fluid waves of liquid mercury, moving quickly up to the root chakra area of your partner in the same manner and movements as a human sperm. Visualize this and greatly over-exaggerate the size and stature of all visualizations involved in your exchange. All aspects of the visualization technique utilized must be larger than life, and get creative with it as well. Join your mouth of God to the sexual energy emanating from within your root, and add that visualization of the liquid mercury of which has sexually bonded with and stimulating your partner. Visualize and feed as if you were your partner, the deep contractions, the stimulation, the satisfaction. See the sparks and connections within their brains that connect to their intimate areas and also within their energetic bodies, and send mental images to your partner of them. Through your intent, experiencing the ultimate in sexual gratification. Feel and visualize yourself in the throes of complete ecstasy, and just as you are giving, you are almost certainly equally receiving. With intent, fill your tanks, feed until you are full, revel in your process. Fill every fiber of your being with this ecstasy, this influx of energy that shall nourish you in all of your forms, in the here and now, and in every form of your existence. Once your eyelids flicker and your breath becomes slowed and shallow, the exchange would then be complete. So we still have a lot to go. I'm tired of reading, so I'm gonna stop there. It's kind of crazy, huh? Yeah, hail to the pain. Fuck yeah, Robin. Hell yeah. Wear a bib when you're cleaning, when you're feeding, keep your soul clean. Hell yeah. What's up, John Usher? What's up, Hector? What's up, Angel? Yeah, dude. As you can see, pretty wild motherfucker. I really do try to control my vampiric nature now. It's been a long time, you know? And I used to be very reckless about it, and I literally used to be addicted to it. It's probably something that, like, because of who and what I am now, like, because I started to feel guilty about it and like a little weird about it, I stopped doing it a lot. And I really do feel that, like, that's a reason why I fell into addiction. You know, like, I was trying to fill those cravings of energy with something else. Like, when you work with these demons, you literally do transform. You become something else entirely. You begin to feed and thrive off of energy. And you do have to learn how to control it. You know, you should never be draining anyone. You should be giving to them as much as you are receiving. Now, of course, if you're trying to do that for nefarious reasons, then there you go, you can do that. But if you're healing someone, if you are trying to create some type of sexual energy in which you can feed and nourish yourself from, you know, you don't want it entirely just be taking from them. You want to actually make them feel just as high as you're getting. And that is the way that I have found is most beneficial, and that will actually, like, fuel your tank in the best way. You can certainly cause people to feel uncomfortable if you're not being like conscious of what's going on. Because I will tell you, like, when you're a vampire, you're a fucking vampire. And you have to be responsible. You have to be conscious of what's going on with your energy. And it does take practice, and it does take skill. It's definitely something that you want to hone in on, because you don't want to create a situation where you're literally like harming people around you. And this is something that, like, I've mentioned it before, but I've been reluctant to talk about it for a long time. It's a secret I've been hiding. Some Florida water for you all, and a little for me. Just a little blessing, because those motherfuckers are out there. Give you all a little bit of protection. So we will pick up with this. I wrote a lot in this one. Holy fuck. I wrote a lot in this one. There's still like another probably 20 fucking pages to go. This was like the longest writing that I did in any of them, and I tell you, reading aloud is taxing. That just took a lot of energy for me to do that, oddly enough. I mean, shit, it took an hour to fucking do. Goddamn. So I hope that that piqued your interest, and I hope maybe that it shed some light on some things. Maybe this is some stuff that you are already familiar with. Maybe it's something new to you. It was certainly wild how it happened to me, that's for sure. It was like, what the actual fuck? I literally fucking went through hell. And it was so confusing. I mean, this consumed my life for a very long time. Like, coming into this, especially with him. Like, this was really fucking crazy, man. Like, it was Lilith, it was Asmodeus, it was Azazel, it was Lucifer, it was Belial. But really, in the very beginning, it was Lilith and it was Asmodeus. So I guess without the shadow of a doubt, that vampire force, that vampiric force, came for my motherfucking ass. And it demanded that I transform. It demanded that I become one with it. And people think that it's just a myth. People think that it's just fucking fairy tales, don't they? Yeah. It's fucking real. And it gets way deeper than that. Way deeper than that. So now you know. Oh yes, Janika, that's a great question. And yeah, Angel, I wasn't seeking it. They sought me out. They chose me, and a lot of them do that. I will definitely be having that happening, Janika. I'm going to be making a lot of videos. I got a big move happening right now. I'm moving out of this house into a place, and I am officially, at this point, a full-time black magician, 100%. So I'm going to be making so many videos. The Patreon is going to be loaded with step-by-step how I do what I do, my thoughts on it. Author of Darkness, Hearst right here. is going to be joining me in that effort, doing that too. He's going to be moving down here. You're going to see a lot of us together. He's got a Patreon too. I've got a Patreon as well. We both offer mentorships. You can have direct access to me by text messaging, either 4, 5, or 6 days a week. You can choose if you want to do 2 phone calls with me and 2 video chats, or 1 phone call and 1 video chat. You can ask me questions. You can talk to me. I'll give you my guidance. I'll let you know what I think. But then there's also going to be tons of videos on there, tutorials of all kinds of things. So it's going to be really cool. I'm really excited about it. Yeah, this has been a long time in the making, and I have always been so hesitant to actually take that step into doing this, 100% of the time. I was really holding on to that other semblance of 3D life with a death grip, and I just was so reluctant to let it go. But now is the time, and I have let go of it, and it feels really fucking good, and I'm able to do it. Financially speaking, everything's falling into place. So I'm excited about this. Some awesome things are fucking coming for me and for all of you. I know and I feel, I see all of you. I know all of this is beginning to reveal itself to you in ways that it has never revealed itself before, isn't it? It's all making so much more sense. It's all feeling so fucking right now, isn't it? Yep. Weird, ain't it? Strange. Why is that? I don't know. I will tell you, it has a lot to do with it being a 9-year. It has a lot to do with how Lilith's energy has been coming back stronger and stronger over the past 3 years, finally arriving strong as fuck this year. Has a lot to do with her. It has a lot to do with this divine, spiritual, feminine energy being restored here on this earth. It has really awoken something inside of all of us that we weren't quite getting there yet. But that energy is here now. It's acclimating inside of us. Things are being activated within our blood, within our DNA. Our ancestors are helping us to remember who and what we are. Lilith, Lucifer, Azazel, Asmodeus, Belial, all of them are helping us to remember who and what we are, where we came from, the bad motherfuckers that we've always been. We were just unaware of it. We forgot who we were. We remember now, don't we? Ooh, yep. This world's gonna find out. We're gonna save that shit, boy. Save these motherfuckers from themselves. I'm still in the struggle of trying to save myself from myself. I haven't gotten there yet. I've got a lot of work to do, but I'm gonna fucking do it. I'm gonna fucking see it through. I'm not gonna stop until this dirty job be done. That's for sure. That's for sure. The motherfucker that you're looking at right now ain't gonna be the same motherfucker you're gonna see in 6 months. It certainly ain't gonna be the same motherfucker you're gonna see in a year. I'm going to continue to improve. I'm going to continue to transform. That's a fucking promise. And I'm gonna keep that shit for myself and for all of you. I want you all to fucking do the same. I know that you will. I know that you will. So fuck yeah, y'all. Keep shining brightly. Stay fucking awesome. If you need me, you know where to find me. Okay? The end goal is changing ourselves from the inside out. To be able to actually control our reality 100% and know that we are literally creating and bringing forth the infernal empire upon this earth, literal heaven on earth. We're creating our forever home here in this physical realm. It is going to rise. It is going to be like a fucking movie. It's going to blow your fucking mind. of what you're gonna be able to fucking do. When the 5D comes and overlaps the 3D fully, shit's gonna get fucking crazy. And it's gonna fucking happen. It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be wild. The training wheels are gonna fucking be removed. Shit's gonna get awesome. So fuck yeah. So I love you all. See you soon. Take care. Be good. Hail to all of you. Yeah.